Dear relationship cynics and relationship romantics, my name is Monice, and you are listening to the Romantic Cynic podcast. Loyalty, the state or quality of being loyal, a feeling or attitude of devoted attachment and affection. On this episode, I wanted to talk about loyalty in a relationship and what that looks like. Loyalty isn't something that's just freely given, it's earned over time. Not just with romantic relationships, but with friendships as well. So I hope you join me on today's episode where we might mix in some laughter, maybe some tears, romance, and of course, some cynicism. Welcome to episode 23. What does loyalty look like in a relationship? I gave you the definition of loyalty, but what does loyal mean? Loyal, faithful to a person, ideal, custom, cause, or duty. Synonym, faithful. What does faithful mean? Faithful, adhering firmly and devotedly as to a person, cause, or idea. Synonym, loyal. I had come across somewhat recently of a situation where loyalty was questioned, or loyalty in my opinion, this person put themselves in a situation which could potentially cause them to be unfaithful or disloyal to a person. I know I always give my real life examples of what the topic I am discussing for the week. And of course, loyalty isn't any different. In my opinion, loyalty isn't something that is automatically given in a relationship, either being a romantic relationship or a friendship. Loyalty is something that really is earned over time. And when it's in the span of time is dependent upon the situation. It's dependent upon the person. There's a many different factors that can make someone or believe someone to be 100% loyal. One of those is, how truthful they are in their relationship. That's a big one. I feel like honesty in part of a relationship, whether it's going to hurt the other person's feelings, whether it's going to cause some uncomfortability during, their conversation. I feel like being truthful, 100% truthful, is part of that loyalty definition. It's part of the loyalty part of the relationship. For me personally, I feel that loyalty is one of my biggest strengths, and I am loyal to a fault at times. I'm extremely loyal to my family. I will protect them at all costs. I will do whatever it takes to be loving and caring and to make sure that they're protected, as best I can. There's not all situations that you can protect, your family, but I am devoutly loyal to my family because, one, I grew up in a very healthy environment with really loving parents. My brother and I were always good kids growing up. We even our extended family. So the dad's side of the family, growing up in that type of environment, it was always loving and supportive as much as they could be. And I know for me, being loyal or having someone be loyal to me and me giving their loyalty back in return, there's some things that I feel are really important to have. And a big part of my loyalty to be given to someone is acceptance. Like, how well do you accept me as a person? Are you going to be the type of person that will try to change me because you feel that it's appropriate to change for the sake of you, for the sake of your own ego? I know sometimes that does happen where you feel like you have to change another person in order to feel maybe good about yourself or to have the ideal of what a partner looks like. Again, for me, being loyal, there's things that come with that, and for you to get my loyalty, a big part of it is not judging me for who I am, but loving me for who I am, regardless of the faults that I may have, some of the things that I may need to work on to maybe even better myself in your opinion or in someone's opinion. But having judgment against me is going to be a very deterring factor of me giving my faithfulness and me giving my loyalty to someone else. As I said, I grew up in a very healthy environment. My parents accept me for who I am. They love me for who I am. And at the end of the day, all they really want is for me to be happy. I've had those conversations with my mom who, there's times where I'll call her, and I'll cry. I'm like, Mom, this is how I'm feeling. And I feel so down. And, all the other negative things I'm feeling in that moment. And she usually stops me and she's very kind and loving. She says, I just want your dad and I, the only thing that's important to us is to make sure that you are happy, regardless of what that looks like. And it makes me feel really good. It's because they are so accepting and they're so loving of who I am as a person. And they know that I am an adult, and just like every other person, we make our own mistakes as long as we learn from them. And the fact that they're accepting of who I am as a person really goes a long way of me being loyal back to them. Another thing that I think is really important to consider is the amount of energy. And this is not just talking about parents. This is talking about romantic partners. The type of energy, positive energy that I get from someone, I'm going to give the same energy back. And so, again, I always have an example. And so from my previous relationship with my now ex-husband, I remember, I can honestly say at the beginning of our relationship, I wouldn't say I was loyal, because again, it was young and new and exciting in the first few months, if not maybe the year of a relationship. And I try to give him the energy that I was hoping to get back in return. Now, what usually happens, and maybe you have experienced this, where the energy that you're giving to the person isn't reciprocated or isn't matched, and all of a sudden you are now matching the energy they're giving you. Yet they expect to be given the same energy that you gave at the beginning of the relationship, and that's just not how it works, because doing that consistently day in, day out is so exhausting. It's draining of a person who gives that much energy and they're not given the same back. And that is the same with loyalty. If I feel, and this was true with my ex-husband, I never really felt the loyalty from him, because he, in previous episodes I had mentioned that he compared me to other women, either be it mainly my physical body, and he was more of the physical type of person. He really, in my opinion, didn't really care who I was on the inside, because he had this certain ideal image of who I should be, and I just could never match that. But going back to loyalty, he expected me to give him 100% loyalty. And my stubborn side, and this is probably a fault of mine, my stubborn side just would not allow me to give him the loyalty he expected, almost as he demanded it. And with him, there's a lot of double standards. What was expected of me was never always expected of him. So he never earned my loyalty. He just couldn't, because again, there was judgment. There was a lot of judgment in that relationship. And from what I have experienced recently, currently in with my life partner now, the loyalty level is something that I've always wanted to give to another person. And I have that now in my previous relationships, even other relationships, not just the relationship I had with my ex-husband. I just could never be loyal because the judgment piece just always got in the way of me being able to give my loyalty to someone. I felt there's like almost a sense of being a feeling safe in that relationship where I know for myself, and maybe you've experienced this, if you feel just a small piece of the person, you're not feeling safe with a person. And I don't mean like from a physical sense, I mean from emotional sense, I mean from a psychological sense. If you can't feel safe enough around that person because there might have been judgment, or maybe they look down upon you, or maybe they've said something to you that was unkind in a very hurtful way that hurt you from a psychological and emotional standpoint, they don't get your loyalty. They don't deserve your loyalty, even though they may demand it from you. Loyalty is, in my opinion, is not putting yourself in situations that could cause you to either think about someone else other than your significant other than your life partner. There are times, and I can say that I have been guilty of this in the past, where I would flirt, not with the person, but I would flirt with the notion of putting myself in a situation where I maybe had maybe a slight crush on someone. I would not, again, with my ex-husband, I wouldn't necessarily avoid those situations. And I feel like a part of it, and this situation that I had witnessed recently, where there was this woman that put herself in a situation that you can tell she was very flirtatious with this man. He was reciprocating back her flirtations, and she ended up walking away from him, I think within like 15 minutes. But I got to witness this. I'm a big person. I love people watching whenever I go to bars or events or anywhere. Like I can be shopping someplace, and I love people watching because I love watching the interactions. But you can tell that this woman put herself in a situation where she, even though maybe she didn't physically do something, she still was flirtatious with this individual that wasn't her spouse or her life partner or whatever the situation was. And this is not me like being judging her, but just really thinking about like, you can't put yourself in a situation and be that can be questionable and be 100% loyal at the same time. I know some people would argue, well, like, hey, I was able to say no. Maybe there are situations where you generally don't know that you're in a situation that could cause you to be disloyal. But I'm talking about when you like purposely put yourself in a situation that can, where your loyalty becomes questionable. I feel like, especially with social media and the plethora of attractive people, both men and women, and men and women liking and sneaking into someone's DMs and messaging someone, that all of that is being disloyal to your partner. You're putting yourself in a situation where where there is no loyalty to your partner. And I feel like loyalty is such a big thing that's missing in a lot of relationships, especially with the amount of men and women, beautiful men and women, that appear to be single or available on social media. And we really have to figure out, like, what type of relationships do we want? Do we want someone that is 100% loyal to us? Because if that is something that you want, you have to be able to give that to a person. Now, not every single may not every single relationship that you may have had experience with where you give 100% of your loyalty maybe at the beginning, but they don't give it back to you. There's an issue there. There's an underlying problem there. And it's not necessarily you having to put all your energy. There has to be some reciprocity back as well. And there has to be, the sense of almost unselfishness when it comes to your partner. Loyalty should not be taken for granted. Loyalty is absolutely earned and from reading some articles, and I can speak for myself that being able to give 100% loyalty and getting 100% loyalty back from another person, again, either it be a romantic relationship or a friendship, takes time. It takes events. It takes situations. It takes being comfortable with another person and knowing that they're not going to judge you and you're not going to judge them. And a part of that loyalty comes from the unconditional love factor as well. So I hope you got some insight on loyalty today. And really stop and think, like, what type of loyalty are you giving in your current relationships, friendships, and or romantic relationships? And what type of loyalty have you gotten from another person? So again, I hope you take some insight, think about loyalty from many different angles, from a friendship, family, love, romantic relationships, and just really stop and reflect on what loyalty means to you and what type of loyalty do you want at the end of the day. I hope that if you are in a relationship, a healthy relationship, that you hold your partner close and really reflect on the type of relationship and the type of loyalty that you give to one another. If you are single, that's okay. I hope you continue to work on the best version of you. Thank you for listening, and as always, yours truly, the Romantic Cynic.